After playing a lot of Ninja Gaiden 4 and completing my playthrough, I have a lot of thoughts on this game. In terms of being a Ninja Gaiden fan, I am not a super diehard fan. I did not grow up with this series, and I pretty much played through all the games a couple years ago. I played most versions of each of these games, so I have a lot of playtime with the Ninja Gaiden series, so I put myself right in the middle. I love these games, but I'm not a diehard fan. I also played through Master Ninja of all these games except for 3 Razor's Edge, so I definitely was able to see the differences and similarities between the older Ninja Gaidens and this newer combat system. So as a whole, and with the combat, is this a good comeback for the Ninja Gaiden series? Let's get into it. If you guys enjoy action games, RPGs, JRPGs, anything remotely like that, make sure to subscribe. I've been trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, and it would make my day if you did. Now, first things first, there's a new character you play as from the Raven Ninja clan, and his name is Yakamo. And he's,
Put her there, partner.
Yakamo honestly had me dying at times. This dude's edgelord attitude really makes the game funny at times. He's pretty much dead set on completing his mission, and he doesn't talk very much, but I did enjoy him. I like his design aesthetically, and I know a lot of people hated him because Ryu is not the main focus in this game, but he is in this game, and I actually liked how they balanced Yakamo and Ryu, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. The most important thing in a Ninja Gaiden game is the combat and the gameplay. So how did they do in Ninja Gaiden 4? Well, I personally really enjoyed it. It felt like they brought a lot of the systems back from the previous games to keep it feeling like a Ninja Gaiden game, but at the same time, there is differences in the combat and kind of the flow of everything. So it might turn off super diehard fans, but people like me who are fine with variety when it comes to combat systems, as long as it still has that original DNA, I think you'll enjoy it. One thing about the combat that's still very similar, and I really enjoyed this because this was the fun of the older Ninja Gaiden games for me, was the way you're kind of just frantically jumping around the arena. But it has a lot of intention, right? You want to know where you want to position yourself. You sometimes want to bounce off walls, grapple on the things, basically to get out of the way of these enemies that are attacking so viciously. And then I would say positioning was the first thing I noticed. In the older Ninja Gaiden games, a lot of the arenas would cause you to make sure you're in the right position because sometimes they'd lock you in small corridors, boxed rooms, or just in general the environment with 15 different ninjas attacking you. You have to know where you're jumping around, who you're prioritizing. In Ninja Gaiden 4, most of the arenas are big, so the enemies are still really aggressive, but you have a lock-on in this game, so you could lock onto an enemy and kind of fight them 1v1. Now, they're still going to attack you really fast, so you still have to know when to jump around, who to prioritize, take out the ranged enemies first. You know, it still has a lot of those things in it, but there's not many small arenas that cause you to kind of use your environment as much. You're basically just jumping from enemy to enemy in a big environment each time. Now, this does make it feel like a generic action game opposed to a Ninja Gaiden game at times, but there's still a lot of things here that obviously make it feel like Ninja Gaiden, and in general, the combat system is very smooth. The animations are really good. It feels good to play. There's a lot of defensive options. Enemies have regular telegraphed attacks that are easy to notice. A lot of people complained about the targeting in this game, and I actually did not experience that at all. And one reason I think that's happening is because in the old Ninja Gaiden games, you had a soft lock on where the game will kind of dynamically lock on for you, and you're jumping really fast from enemy to enemy, and you could just reset your camera behind Ryu. Whereas in this game, there's a lock on like all action games have. So I would use the lock on every single time because, again, I play a lot of action games. Most of them have lock-ons, so it came naturally to me. Whereas in the older Ninja Gaidens, you didn't really rely on that. So maybe some diehard fans went into this and just didn't really use the lock-on and got mad that they targeted the wrong person. But yeah, for me, not once. I always attacked who I wanted to attack, and wherever I was jumping around the arena is where I would position myself for the next attack. This game is definitely more reactive than the older Ninja Gaiden games, which I would describe as more proactive. In the older ones, you're holding the block most of the time and you're kind of assessing your area and then you make things happen. Whereas in this game, you're reacting to enemies very quickly on the fly. So I think that's just going to matter on personal opinion if you enjoy that. I obviously really like that. I love games with a parry system. I love games with perfect dodges. If you've seen my channel, you've seen that I love reactive-based gameplay, so I had a lot of fun with this. In Ninja Gaiden 4, you're going to be parrying, you're going to be dodging a lot more than holding the block button down, and again, personal preference. I enjoyed that. I don't mind the old Ninja Gaidens, the way they played, but if you enjoy that type of combat system, I think you'll feel right at home here. But again, to me, it's still played a lot like Ninja Gaiden. In a lot of action games, you're not really jumping around the arena to avoid damage, but in Ninja Gaiden 4, you're still jumping into dodging, you're still doing flying swallows to get a hit on the enemy, you're still Izuna dropping them because when you're in the air, you're safer than being on the ground. So there's a lot of things that still made it feel totally Ninja Gaiden to me. One of the big new mechanics in Ninja Gaiden 4 is the Blood Raven arts, and I've seen mixed opinions on this. Me personally, I really enjoyed it. And one of the main reasons I really enjoyed it is because I like managing stuff like this. You basically get more powerful moves once your meter is up, and when you do that, you have completely different combos, and it really wipes the arena. But you can't just stand there and use it, because then, yeah, you might kill some enemies one-on-one, but really what you want to do is learn how to use them to wipe out the arena as fast as possible, because some of them are better for sweeping a group of enemies. A lot of the AoE ones, you want to position them correctly to get as many enemies as possible, as fast as possible. You also have 4 different weapons at your disposal with Yakamo, and switching to them will help you in different scenarios. There's a ranged one, which is obviously good if you want to keep a distance. There's a hammer, so I love using it to just jump into the air and slam the ground. The sword, again, is good for sweeping a group of enemies, so it is really fun to switch weapons on the fly. It also gives you a lot of combo potential to do some pretty cool things. Now, the boss fights I found very interesting. So boss fights are my favorite things in pretty much any game. So I was really critical when it came to these, and I thought they were just okay. I think I like them more than the older Ninja Gaiden bosses. That was actually a big problem with me when I played through those games, is I just don't like the way the bosses are designed. They break out of your attacks at seemingly random moments at times, and you know, it could be a skill issue where I didn't understand how those bosses were meant to be played, but I got through them anyways on Master Ninja. But it was a lot of spamming, a lot of jumping around the place and just getting any hits in I can. I just didn't really like the older Ninja Gaiden bosses. In this game, there are a lot more like modern boss fights where they have telegraphed openings, you could knock them out and you get your turn the combo. So I enjoyed them, but I don't think they were like insane or anything. They were fun, but a few of them were kind of boring. And when you have games like the first Berserker Kazan, Liza P, Kingdom Hearts data battles, like I've played so many incredible bosses to where Ninja Gaiden 4's, I think they could have been a lot better. But I do think they are better here in 4 than the previous Ninja Gaiden games. It's very clear when your opening is to attack. It's very clear when the enemy's going to attack and you need to avoid damage. It's just much more streamlined, which, again, some people might not like, but I enjoyed that more because, again, the older Ninja Gaiden games, the bosses felt very frantic. Like, the rules would change on the fly, and if the boss is going to attack you or if you have an opening. One thing I definitely enjoyed about the older Ninja Gaiden games a lot more were the actual levels. I think the environment were more fun to play around in, and there was a lot more variety. Again, in Ninja Gaiden 4, a lot of it is just big open areas, you're fighting a bunch of enemies, and there's some on-rails segments where you're sliding on rails, you have to jump and wall run, you have to grapple, and you kind of have to do those little QTEs to avoid damage. The problem with it is they just got really boring because most of the time they're so easy, and then when they finally ramp up where you actually have to jump around on the fly so you don't get hit, there's just not much of a penalty. Like, you fall, you lose a little bit of health, and then you redo it. So these sections, honestly, were a bit of a snore, and I didn't care for them. And then other than that, these levels I thought were much more just kind of empty than the other Ninja Gaiden games. The other Ninja Gaiden games, there were a lot of interesting levels you were jumping through. And then, kind of how I mentioned in the beginning of the video, sometimes they'll just put you in really weird rooms where you'll be in like a box or a box with just one staircase, and you have to manage that area with all these ninjas, where again in Ninja Gaiden 4 you're kind of just going from big arena to big arena until the level finally ends. When you're in the heat of combat though, which is 95% of the time in Ninja Gaiden 4, it is really fun. You honestly feel like you're on crack the entire time, and there's a lot of room to get skillful at this game, and Master Ninja I thought was actually really fun so far. So I did really enjoy this game as a whole, but I feel like some areas could have been better. The level design could have been more interesting. The bosses I think could have been a bit crazier in their spectacle and their move sets. And then in general, I thought it was just a really good game, but for a comeback to the Ninja Gaiden series, I think they could have went out with a little bit bigger of a bang. But in general, I still really enjoyed this game. And when it came to the new character, again, I didn't mind it. I don't have like an attachment to Ryu, and I actually kind of enjoyed the way they did it in this game. They just did a lot of fan service, and they kind of look at Ryu as like the super ninja. He's a mentor, and you're the lesser ninja with Yakamo, and he's kind of getting stronger and training through the game. So I thought that was a really cool idea, and I think they did it pretty good. I think there's enough Ryu in this game to give fans like a lot of good fan service, and you do get to play as him, and eventually when you beat the game, you can go through all the missions as Ryu, but there's not as much depth when it comes to Ryu. Like, he doesn't have his other weapons here. You're obviously not playing as him the majority of the campaign. So again, that ticked off some fans, but I'm right in the middle. Right? I'm not a super fan of this series, so I thought it was totally fine, and I liked Yakamo. I'm curious what they do with the DLC. I really hope we could play as other characters. I personally loved playing as the girls in the older games, and Ayane's design in this game is absolutely crazy, but you don't get to play as her. So I was like, please let me play as Ayane in the DLC. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Are you a mega fan of the Ninja Gaiden series? And then what was your opinion on Ninja Gaiden 4? Or are you a new fan coming in for the first time, which I think newer fans might actually have more fun of a time than older fans, but again, more of like the really diehard fans. I think if you're like me and you enjoyed the Ninja Gaiden series, this game is going to be totally fun for you. But if you're a very diehard fan where you want it to play exactly like the older games, you might take some issue with Ninja Gaiden 4. But overall, a really good action game, and I think Platinum Games did a good job with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll see you in another one very soon. Peace.